Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Dynasty After Dark. We're your hosts, Calvin Timms and Dale Terry. You can find us on Twitter at TDC_Calvin at Dynasty_Dale. And we're back with another offseason recap for the entire 2023 offseason. Today, we're starting the AFC North. If you haven't yet, we've been putting out videos at this point every single day for the last couple of days, and we're planning on doing it every single day in the month of July until we get through the entire AFC, NFC, the entire NFL. And hopefully you guys like this content because we're going through all of the changes that all the teams made for their coaching staffs, their players, their drafts, people that they added, people that they lost, and then talking about some of the dynasty impacts. Now, we're not ranking guys, I think Josh Allen's going to be the quarterback number one. I still think Josh Allen's going to be a stud. I don't really have a specific 2023 ranking on him just yet, but I think he's still going to be really good. We're going through it more of that lens than more of a team lens than a holistic whole NFL lens, which is typical rankings, right? So that said, make sure you're liking, commenting, subscribing on the videos. Just gets the video out there to more people. We're really proud of this kind of content that we're doing for you. It's a lot of work too. This is going to end up being about 10 to 12 hours of recording time for all these videos. So, that's a lot of work. So hopefully you guys like the content. Let us know your thoughts. If there's anything that you guys don't like, if there is anything that you'd like to see us add or kind of change on stuff, we always appreciate any feedback you guys have. So, like I said, at this point in time, this is episode number 4, 5, 6, somewhere in that range. So, go check out the other videos. If you have another team you want to hear and it hasn't come out yet, it will be. So that's it. Dale, how we doing today?
Hey, I'm doing really well tonight. My wife's out of town, so I am ready to get going and be going over these teams all night.
Yeah, concerts, good times. I
Yeah,
remember the old days when I didn't have any wife or kids in the house. It was peaceful.
a long time ago. Yeah.
All right. So the format for these, if you haven't checked any of the other ones out yet, we're going to go through the coaching changes, if there are any. Then we're going to go through the players that they added, the players that they lost in the offseason free agency period. And then we're going to go through their draft. And then at the end of the podcast, we're going to talk about the team holistically and our thoughts on all the players on the team. So that said, we're starting with the Ravens, the Baltimore Ravens, and the only coaching change is a big one. It is the offensive coordinator, Todd Monkin, comes back to the NFL, formerly with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers during the Jameis peak Jameis time frame.
Yep.
Goes to the Georgia Bulldogs, leads them to basically two national champions.
Back-to-back national championships.
Right.
Yep.
Now he's coming back to the NFL to be the OC for Lamar Jackson and the Baltimore Ravens. And this is a pretty big impact because, Greg Roman was the offensive coordinator before. And as typical, we've talked about this many times. If you ever heard any of our videos on the Ravens, Greg Roman is he's kind of like training wheels for undeveloped quarterbacks, right? And that's kind of what Lamar Jackson was when he first entered. He was a good player, but he was really raw, right? And Greg Roman is great training wheels for those type of players because he gets the offense and gets you comfortable. He specializes the offense around your skills. The problem is they're not very complex. It's kind of like level 1 or level 2, right? Where most of the top NFL offenses are around level 3, 4, 5, whatever it is. So they kind of get stale pretty quickly. And that's where I think that Lamar Jackson is ready to take that next step. And hopefully someone like Todd Monkin can help them to propel forward going forward. Do you see it the same way?
I completely agree with that. I like what Greg Roman did. He was in San Francisco with Colin Kaepernick.
Right.
And kind of transformed him into a very competent quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel he did the same with Lamar Jackson. But at a certain point, guys kind of are played out, and
Right.
with him, it's gotten very predictable. It's the same stuff, and he's getting read very easily. So
Yep.
I think he paid his dues, and he made them a very successful team.
Mm-hmm.
And for fantasy, like, it made them fun and
Yeah.
at least interesting, and sometimes hard to read every now and again
Yeah.
on
Right.
on 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 the wide receiver end. So,
Yep.
but I'm glad to see him go. he really needed to go.
Yes.
Um,
Yeah.
and I'm really excited for Todd Monkin. I think he's going to be electric for this team, and I think he's going to be really good for pretty much every offensive piece on this team.
Yeah, it's all going to come down to Lamar, whether he can really develop. We've seen some of the signs that he can take that step forward in the passing game, but now we're really going to put it to the test. So, it's going to be whether he can sustain these wide receivers or not, and that's the big question. So, all right, so we're going to get into the free agents now that they added this last offseason. There's some players that they re-signed, some players that they added, and unfortunately, we don't have it in particular order, so we're just going to go through the whole list here. But started with cornerback Rock Yassin, center Sam Mustapher. Signed both of those guys. They were with other teams last year. They brought Josh Johnson in to be a depth quarterback behind Lamar. Angelo Blackson was a defensive tackle. Then a couple of wide receivers that they brought in: Nelson Aguilar, OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., and Laquan Treadwell. I like OBJ, that signing. Nelson Aguilar, he's a good depth piece. He's not a premier dynasty asset like we hoped he could have been. A few players that they re-signed this year. They re-signed Trayvon Mullen. They re-signed Kevin Seymour. So, keeping those players in-house. They re-signed a lot of their defensive players, actually. They re-signed Geno Stone, Delshawn Phillips, and Kristen Welch. Justice Hill, they brought him back. He's a special teamer, kind of. They re-signed Lamar Jackson to a big money contract, which is great to see. You love to see that they were able to finally get past whatever hurdle they were kind of working with there. And then they signed Tyler Huntley to continue to be the backup to Lamar. So, the free agents, nothing crazy, just kind of keeping it status quo for the most part. But again, the biggest change I think so far has been the offensive coordinator. Any major standouts there from the free agents that they re-signed or added?
The only one would be OBJ.
Sure.
And I don't think he's going to have, personally, I don't think he's going to have a lot of dynasty value. I can see him. I can see him having some redraft value, but
yeah, definitely. Yep. So
that's really it.
Yeah, we'll talk about him a little bit. My thoughts specifically on him here in just a minute. Few players that they lost. Again, this is no particular order. Unfortunately, Wikipedia does not organize it by position. It's just by name, I think. I have no idea. But they lost Marcus Peters, which was a big loss. He still hasn't actually signed with anybody yet, so they could always bring him back. But that's a big hit to this defense, like their secondary. They lost Kyle Fuller as well. They lost center Tristan Colon, Josh Oliver, the tight end, Ben Powers, offensive guard, Calais Campbell. They cut him. He went on to the Falcons. That's a big name right there. Chuck Clark was a safety that they lost. Demarcus Robinson is someone that's low-key very interesting that they don't have anymore, considering how prominent he was in the offense at the end of last year. They also lost Kenyon Drake. They have not re-signed him. They have not re-signed Jason Pierre-Paul, Sammy Watkins, Justin Houston. So a few players around the board and Juwan James is another offensive lineman that they did not re-sign as well. So some bigger names on the defensive side of the ball. Nothing shattering, earth-shattering.
No, it's not shattering. I feel a lot of those guys are older. Like for instance, like
Calais Campbell.
is in his like mid 30s. Like Jason Pierre-Paul has 3 fingers on one hand, right. and for Marcus Peters is 30. So as a cornerback, like kind of once you hit that point, like it's really hard to stay behind some of these wide receivers that you have in the AFC.
Right, future New England Patriot Marcus Peters.
Probably so.
All right, so the draft, this was where it's a little more interesting. First round, people were kind of all over the board. Oh, they'll take a wide receiver. Oh, they won't take a wide receiver. Ended up taking Zay Flowers out of Boston College. A lot of people were really high on Zay. I was a little bit lower, but this is good draft capital. You love to see that. Trenton Simpson in the 3rd round, linebacker out of Clemson. In the 4th round, they take Tavius Robinson, defensive end out of Ole Miss. Caillou Blue Kelly, that's a cool name. cornerback out of Stanford in the 5th round, 6th round. Oh my gosh, these names are getting so much worse. Mala Sala. He's an offensive tackle in the 6th round. That's all you need to know about him. And then Andrew Voorhees. This one was actually a low-key kind of steal. 7th round pick, offensive guard Andrew Voorhees. This is the guy 100%. Who tore. He had first round draft grades on him, and he tore his pec right before the combine or at the combine. I can't remember what it was.
It was at the combine because he was doing a drill and he tore his ACL is what happened.
Oh, was it? Okay, I thought it was his pec. But it was crazy. That's right, because he still came back and rep like 30 on the bench. It was nuts.
It was something ridiculous.
So that was
on the bench.
Yeah, actually. Very good signing there in the 7th round. But obviously the headliner was Zay Flowers in the 1st. They didn't have a 2nd round because they traded it to Chicago. So quickly we'll just pivot right into the the skill players. So obviously at quarterback you get Lamar Jackson. You have Tyler Huntley back. Lamar is definitely the premier piece in this team.
100%. Yes.
And I think it's safe to say you and I are very aligned on Lamar Jackson, that we think that he's going to just go bananas this year.
Nuclear, yes. Yeah. Yes, it's going to be outrageous. I mean, I don't think he's going to have the same touchdown INT ratio that he did in his MVP year. That was ridiculous.
Yeah, it was like 36-7 or something.
It was something like that, but I wouldn't be shocked if he had 35 touchdowns and maybe 12 picks or something like I can see him doing that because he's just going to throw the ball more.
Yeah, I agree. The only thing I'm a little worried about is that they might pare back some of his rushing. Because Greg Jackson, that's like all he did, right? So or Greg Roman, sorry, Greg Roman. Yeah. All he was known for making mobile quarterbacks really really good, right? So I don't think that he's going to have the same rushing, but is he still going to have 700, 800, 900 yards? Yeah,
absolutely.
I definitely think so.
Absolutely. Yes.
I still think Lamar Jackson is a premier dynasty asset. People are kind of catching up to that. It feels like lately he was kind of depressed in value a little bit, but he's definitely spiking back there.
And the problem that it's been the past 2 years, like he's been injured at the end of the year.
That's
so
true.
So like for a lot of people, like they drafted him high and then they get burnt once championship week comes along and he's not playing. So after a certain point, players get burnt on these guys that aren't showing up. Yeah.
It's crazy. Still though, this
it happens.
Right. So this is just his fantasy points in a standard 4 point with the rushing, the 1 per 10 rushing, right? 1 for 25 for passing. Week 1, 20 points. Week 2, 45 points. Week 3, 40 points. Week 4, 13 points. Week 5, 15, 16, 10, 22, 17, 15, 23. So, he had a little bit of a lull right there around week 4, 5, and 6, but still in a one quarterback or even a super flex, those aren't make or break weeks, especially when you're getting 40, 45, 30, right? So he's definitely got week winning ability. Just needs to get some of that inconsistency a little bit more under control, right? Okay. All right. So running backs wise, we got J.K. Dobbins. Everyone's kind of rising on him.
Yes, they are.
Everyone's sleeper.
yeah, he is. Well, it's compared to this time last year. Like he was probably going in maybe like 4th or early 3rd, like late 3rd, 4th rounds last year. He's going in like 5th, 6th rounds sometimes.
Yeah,
and
definitely.
That's tremendous value with someone who's in a contract year. It's a new offensive scheme, and he's finally healthy off that ACL.
Right.
And I mean, I love J.K. Dobbins. I think he's going to have. I would not be shocked if he has a close to RB1 year. I mean, I don't think he's going to be the RB1, but
I don't think he's going to have enough passes. That's the only downside for J.K. Dobbins.
Yes,
but
I mean, I agree with that.
Nick Chubb, right? Nick Chubb is a beast.
Oh,
we
absolutely.
love Nick Chubb.
Absolutely.
He doesn't get a ton of passing work, right? So I think that you could see that kind of season from J.K. Dobbins. That's kind 100%. Of his ceiling, but top 5 is definitely in the realm of possibility for him.
It is.
Gus Edwards still a quality kind of depth guy there. He should be finally healthy from his ACL tear as well. Not really that excited as long as JK is healthy, but as a handcuff, Gus Edwards is very interesting there.
Absolutely.
Pass catchers for the team. Obviously, I think the number one is still going to be Mark Andrews.
Yes.
And I found this interesting. So I pulled up the 2022 Georgia Bulldogs, just to see some of the Todd Monkin offense in action, right? And the number one target for the Bulldogs last year, can you guess who it was?
Brock Bowers.
Brock Bowers, man. So, Brock, when you have an elite tight end of this caliber, which Mark Andrews, we all agree is, I think that it's not out of the realm of possibilities that he's going to be. I think he's going to be the tight end number one this year. I honestly do. I think that he's going to just be the focal point of this offense. So, obviously he's the one you want to own. Touchdown wise, yardage wise, I think he's going to get so much work there. Now, the question with the wide receivers, this is where it gets a little interesting. And here's my breakdown on these guys, right? So they all play different roles, in my opinion. So Odell plays kind of the outside type of guy, intermediate to deep, right? That's kind of what he's always kind of done. He's flexible. He can move around, but for the most part, especially at this age, you kind of want him more in a specialized role. Rashad Bateman's kind of the same thing. He plays intermediate to deep, where Zay Flowers is going to play all the underneath stuff, underneath to intermediate. And now I'm a little nervous about Zay Flowers for this season because I think that underneath is kind of where Mark Andrews is going to shine as well. So I'm not sure if Zay Flowers is going to have enough volume to sustain at least this year, but in 2024, I think there's a lot more opportunity after I think Odell is probably cooked and Zay Flowers can overtake him next year. I think he's got enough left that in 2023, he'll be fantasy viable. And as long as Bateman can get back healthy, he is the dude. We saw it last year in a couple of games before he got injured. It was the Liz Frank injury that, those foot injuries suck for receivers. It takes them a little while to get back. I remember Julian Edelman had the same thing, right? So, and it took him a couple years before he was finally healthy. So, I want Rashad Bateman the most out of this offense. I think Zay Flowers is the one that's probably trending the highest out of these guys. What are your thoughts on these three receivers?
I don't want Odell near my team because I feel he's the trap in a lot of it because he is that big name. I feel he hasn't lived up to his potential, even close.
Sure. Not a long time.
I feel no, and not. I mean, it's been 4 years since it's since he's been relevant. And he doesn't have really any ACLs left.
Right.
In all honesty. So, I think this is going to be one of his last years. And, so I'm staying away from him. I do like Rashad Bateman as a sleeper candidate. It's to be a fringe, he's probably gonna be a top. I could see him being a top 15 guy potentially if things go well.
Yeah.
I could see it. I could see it. Yeah, I mean, in all honesty, I can see him having a similar year to like Brandon Ayuk did last year.
Yeah,
I kind of see those guys very similarly.
He's going to be a little more boomer bust, I think.
Yes.
But
yes.
I agree with you.
But I think he can definitely have his boom games, and I love Zay Flowers, which you know that already. But I think there's going to be enough passing to share. And I think they're going to get him involved in different ways other than the short to intermediate passes. They're going to have like these reverses. They're going to have these sweep passes, and all this and that. So I'm not worried about. I mean, this year, yes, I get it, but going forward, I think I think that's where he's going to really shine is towards the end of the year.
Yeah, I could see that. Yep. And again, if anything happens to Bateman where he's not fully healthy, the door is so wide open for Zay Flowers. It's crazy. Yes. So, there's definitely potential there. Don't get me wrong. Don't hear what I'm not saying, but for me, I think Bateman's going behind Flowers in terms of ADP.
He is.
And then
Absolutely.
I think that he has the higher ceiling. So, that's why I would prefer Bateman, but he does have a lot more risk with the injury. So,
Yep.
yeah, but the potential is definitely there for Zay Flowers. So I'm with you. Is there anything else on this team that you wanted to mention?
No. I mean, I'd say the only thing it's going to be interesting to see it's to see who really emerges in that wide receiver room.
Right.
It could be any of those three guys, and
Sure.
that's going to be the toss up come the first couple weeks of the season.
Right. Yeah,
Just
I'm
to
with you.
just see who's going to be Lamar's favorite. Which
Yeah, I think it's going to be Bateman.
I think it's going to be
Flowers
Bateman,
is still a rookie, and we got to remember
Yes.
that. Like, very rarely do you got even Justin Jefferson started slow, right? The first couple of games. So
Yep.
even if Zay Flowers is the next Justin Jefferson, I don't think he is, but it's going to take him a couple of weeks to really come
Yes.
online. So
Absolutely.
yeah, but definitely something to watch, and it's going to be exciting for sure. So that is our recap. All the changes from the 2023 offseason for the Baltimore Ravens. If you like this, please comment, subscribe, leave a like on or 5-star review, whatever you can, just to help with the podcast. Tell the podcast to one of your friends. Again, we're trying to go through all 32 teams, so make sure you're coming back every single day, and we're going to be doing it for the entire month of July. So that said, thank you guys for joining us, and until next time, have a good night.